Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today. We're tackling a question that a lot of you have been asking.
Oh, yeah.
Can you unread messages on Instagram in 2025? We found this document simply titled Pasted Text,
Okay.
and it claims to be like a how-to guide. But some of this stuff is really interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty wild. One of the first things that kind of jumped out at me,
Okay.
that this unreading trick only works for like professional or business accounts,
Really?
not personal ones.
Yeah.
So right away you have to ask yourself, like, does this even apply to you?
It's like a secret society just for business accounts. But, even if it doesn't apply to everyone, I think it's still fascinating
I think so too.
to see what's even possible.
Definitely.
Now, this guide also mentions this weird thing about having thousands of followers.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know why that would be relevant.
I'm not sure either.
Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah. Maybe later on it'll make more sense. But
Yeah.
the steps themselves, they don't really seem to involve your follower count at all.
Okay.
It's a bit of a mystery.
So maybe the author's thinking of like a different feature or something.
Right. Or maybe they've got some secret insider knowledge that we just don't have.
Ooh, insider knowledge. I like that. Speaking of things that aren't quite what they seem, this guide makes it very clear
Okay.
that unreading a message doesn't actually change anything for the sender.
Yeah, it doesn't undo anything.
They still get that seen notification.
Exactly. You're not like a secret agent or anything. It's more about like bringing back the blue dot notification for yourself.
Okay.
So, it could be useful, I guess, for like prioritizing your replies and stuff.
Yeah, just like a little reminder.
Yeah. But it's not exactly stealth mode.
Right. Okay, so let's actually walk through the unreading process.
Okay.
For those of you with business accounts, the guide makes it sound pretty simple.
It does, yeah.
You find the message, long press, slide left, and tap unread.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Like almost too easy.
I know, right?
Makes you wonder why you even bother. Is a blue dot really that much better than just remembering to reply later?
I guess that's a good point. But now let's get to the part that really caught my attention.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets good.
This guide also outlines a method for reading messages on a NY account,
Whoa.
personal or professional, without triggering that dreaded seen notification.
No way.
Now we're talking.
Okay, I'm listening. So what do you have to do?
Well, it suggests disconnecting from the internet completely.
Like completely?
Airplane mode, no Wi-Fi,
Wow.
the whole shebang.
So you're going completely off the grid just to read a message?
That's dedication. But the logic is that your messages are already downloaded when you're online.
Oh, I see.
You can still technically read them offline.
Right.
The key here is logging out of the app
Okay.
before you reconnect to the internet.
So you have to log out while you're spring offline.
That seems a little counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, a little bit. But that's apparently how you avoid sending the seen notification.
Oh.
And once you're logged out and the app is completely closed, you can safely reconnect to the internet.
Wow. So you're like sneaking in, reading the message, and getting out before Instagram can even realize you were there?
Sneaky, sneaky.
I gotta admit, that's pretty slick.
Yeah, it is pretty clever.
But it also seems a little deceptive, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely raises some ethical questions.
Like, is it okay to go through all that trouble just to avoid a little notification?
I don't know. It depends on your perspective, I guess.
Right. Like, maybe in a business context, it's more about managing your time and attention.
I could see that.
But for personal messages, it feels a bit like you're intentionally misleading the other person.
Yeah, for sure.
It's almost like you're lying.
Right.
And that's where the lines between professional and personal accounts get really blurry.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, is it okay to use this tactic with a client, but not your best friend?
That's a tough one.
I don't know. It's interesting that this pasted text guide doesn't even touch on the ethics of it all.
Yeah, they just sort of leave that up to you.
It just lays out the method unless you decide if you want to use it.
Exactly.
But I think that's where critical thinking comes in.
Absolutely.
Just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should.
Right. Just because you have the power doesn't mean you should use it.
Exactly. This whole offline reading thing, it's clever, but it makes you wonder about, like, the unintended consequences.
Like, what if you miss an important message? Because you're too busy trying to be sneaky.
Exactly. What if, like, there's an emergency or something?
Oh, yeah.
And you miss it because you're trying to avoid a scene?
That's a good point.
And then what about the impact on trust?
Right. If everybody starts doing this,
Yeah.
then you can never really be sure someone's actually seen your message.
Right.
Or if they're just ignoring you.
Like, the whole foundation of online communication starts to crumble.
It really does.
Suddenly, a simple seen notification becomes this loaded thing.
Yeah, it's like you can't even trust a little blue dot anymore.
I know, right? I think this whole thing is a good reminder that even with something as seemingly straightforward as Instagram messaging,
Right.
there are always these layers of complexity underneath.
Absolutely.
It's not just about sending and receiving messages.
It's about how we choose to engage with each other and what that says about our values.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to Instagram.
Yeah, me too. And we have to remember this guide. It's just a snapshot of how things are in 2025.
Right. Who knows what the future holds?
Exactly. Maybe Instagram will change its features, or
Yeah.
new apps will come out with totally different ways of messaging.
It's like a constantly evolving landscape.
It really is.
So for you listening out there, we've shown you the tricks, but now it's up to you to decide how you feel about them.
Exactly. Do you want to be a stealthy reader, or do you prefer transparency?
It's a choice we all have to make, and it's not an easy one.
Not at all.
So you're basically sneaking in, reading the message, and getting out before Instagram can even realize you were there.
Right.
I gotta admit, it's pretty slick.
It is pretty clever.
But it also seems a little, deceptive, don't you think?
Well, it certainly raises some ethical questions.
Like, is it okay to go to such lengths just to avoid a simple notification?
I guess it depends on your perspective.
Right, like maybe in a business context, it's more about managing your time and attention.
Yeah, I could see that.
But for personal messages, it feels a bit like you're intentionally misleading the other person.
Exactly. And that's where that distinction between professional and personal accounts gets really blurry.
Yeah.
Is it okay to use this kind of tactic with a client, but not with your best friend?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
It's interesting that this pasted text guide doesn't even touch on the ethics of it all.
I know, right?
They just lay out the method and leave you to decide if you want to use it.
Yeah, they just kind of throw it out there.
I think that's where critical thinking comes in. Just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should.
Right, just because you have the ability doesn't mean you should actually do it.
Exactly. This whole offline reading thing, it's clever, but it makes you wonder about, like, the unintended consequences.
Yeah, like what if you miss an important message?
Exactly. What if there's like an emergency and you miss it because you're too busy trying to be sneaky?
Oh, that would be bad.
And then what about the impact on trust?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
If people start routinely using these kinds of workarounds, it could make it harder to know if someone has actually seen your message or not.
Right, it's like
Gotcha.
you can't even trust the system anymore.
It's like the whole foundation of online communication starts to get shaky.
It really does.
Suddenly, a simple seen notification becomes this like loaded thing.
Yeah, like you can't even trust a little blue dot anymore.
I know, right? I think it's a reminder that even with something as seemingly straightforward as Instagram messaging,
Uh-huh.
there are always these layers of complexity underneath.
Yeah.
It's not just about sending and receiving messages.
It's about how we choose to engage with each other and what that says about our values.
Yeah, it really makes you think about your online behavior.
It does.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to Instagram, honestly.
Yeah, me too. It's a lot to consider.
And remember this guide. It's just a snapshot of how things work in 2025.
Right.
Who knows what the future holds?
Exactly. Things could change completely.
Maybe Instagram will change its features.
Or new apps will emerge with totally different ways of messaging.
It's like a constantly evolving landscape.
It really is. It's hard to keep up sometimes.
So for you listening out there, we've shown you the tricks, but now it's up to you to decide how you feel about them.
Exactly. You have to weigh the pros and cons.
Do you want to be a stealthy reader?
Oh.
Or do you prefer transparency?
It's a choice we all have to make.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's amazing how something as simple as unreading messages can open up so many questions about how we communicate online.
Yeah, it really is. It just shows how complex things have become.
It really highlights the evolving nature of online interaction. Like, what seems like a straightforward feature today
Right.
could be gone tomorrow or have totally different implications as technology changes and social norms shift.
Exactly. It's hard to predict what the future holds.
And then there's that whole mystery about the follower count
Oh, yeah.
that the pasted text guide mentioned. We never really figured that one out.
Nope. Still a mystery.
Maybe it's just a red herring. Or maybe it's a clue to like some deeper aspect of how Instagram prioritizes features for different types of accounts.
Could be.
Maybe we've stumbled onto a conspiracy theory in the making.
Uh-huh. Wouldn't that be something?
But seriously, it just goes to show how much we don't know about the inner workings of these platforms.
Right? Like we use them every day,
Yeah.
but we barely scratch the surface.
I think that's a good takeaway from this deep dive. It encourages us to be more aware,
More mindful.
to look beyond the surface of the apps and websites we use, and to consider the potential consequences of our actions in the digital world.
It's a lot to think about.
So for you listening, we've explored the how-to, but now it's time to ask yourself the so what.
The big question.
Knowing these methods exist, even if they become obsolete someday, how does it change your perception of Instagram messaging?
Does it make you feel differently about it?
Does it make you more conscious of the choices you make online?
Maybe it encourages you to think more critically
Hmm.
about the features you use
Okay.
and the impact they have on your interactions.
Like, do you value stealth and control?
Or
Or transparency and authenticity?
there's no right or wrong answer, but being aware of the options is a good first step.
Well said. We've gone from a simple question about unreading messages to a deep dive into the ethics of online communication,
It's been quite a journey.
the mysteries of algorithms, and the ever-changing landscape of social media.
And who knows what the future holds.
That's the beauty of a deep dive. It's not about reaching a final destination, but about enjoying the journey of exploration and discovery.
I couldn't agree more.
So keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deeper. Until next time.